One thing that came out of Chankwanze is that finally the president has repeated that adui number one is corruption. So, if you have someone who has been identified with corruption, it only means that that person will attract also the corrupt. The president went further by even calling out Honorable Sise Namuju, who is one of the top campaigners of the incumbent speaker, and asked her, how many days did you spend in prison? And said, you know, this one I arrested her, but now she's my friend because she has given me information about other thieves who I'm now going to tackle. What message does that send to you? So if you say you are fighting malaria, can you be a friend to mosquitoes? Also, if there is somebody with a stench of corruption, you know, a stench will attract flies. And if you, however much you spray the flies, the only way to get rid of them is to remove the stench and throw it away. The flies will follow it wherever it will go. This is what I witnessed in Chankwanze, and I repeat, this is really not so much about me. That's why I'm rather relaxed, because I'm not very desperate. There are those who are saying that Mao is using this to bargain for a bigger position. Being a minister is a very big position. But also, a minister serves the president. I don't do my job. I do the president's job as a minister. As a matter of fact, on the 12th, we are handing over to the permanent secretary. All ministers are handing over to the permanent secretary. And then you wait for the president to form his government, because he's the one who has executive power. So why do people talk as if they must die in a particular position? It is up to the president to decide. For me, I'll remain member of parliament elect. As member of parliament elect, I'm ready for anything, because appointments to the cabinet are a prerogative of the president. He is the one to decide who he wants to assign what position. But I think he saw in me something, and that's why he kept that position vacant for 1 year. Let me end on the context there. So these fights we are on are not personal fights. I have nothing personal against any of the people that I'm criticizing. I'm just saying we must put Uganda first. I was the only DP councillor together with another one. We were 2 councillors who were DP in a council of 37 members. You never heard of conflict in Gulu district when I was chairman. When the municipal council had confusion, we applied the law and packed their leadership for 1 year. You know, the Local Government Act allows a higher local government to take over the powers of a lower local government. I think Gulu district became the first ever local government to exercise that power. So we exercised that power and told the mayor and his council, please pack until further notice. You need to learn how to drive first, then you bring you back on the road. So we sent people to manage the affairs of the municipal council for 1 year. While chairman, I used to get calls from Joseph Kony, the rebel leader. Some of you remember that I was even a suspect of being a rebel. But I wasn't the one calling him, he was the one calling me. And each time he would call me, I would go and brief the president. I would call the switchboard because I knew they were listening to my phone anyway.
That's totally right, yes.
At one point, they suspected that I was a rebel. The military intelligence people sent somebody to trail me. I was doing some work at the Sheraton Business Center. When I went to the bathroom to ease myself, I found my flash disk missing. They got the contents and leaked it to the red paper. And the headline was, Gulu District Boss Norbert Mao in trouble over rebel links. So who knew that I had rebel links? And they reproduced some information that I had on some people who wanted to start a new rebel group. But the head of the military intelligence was my classmate, so I called him, General Mujira. He just laughed and he gave me an appointment. When I went to his office, he opened his drawer and gave me back my flash disk. But they knew I was committed to peace. When other people were fearing to go to the bushes of Garamba to meet Joseph Kony, I dared. When we went to have a meeting with him, he invited 10 of us to go to the bush. We walked 16 miles to go and see him. Some of my close friends, when I approached them and told them, will you join me for that journey? They told me, I just wanted a photo with Kony. I've already got it. Now I can't go to the bush myself. Some of us dared and went. Later, I went back for a longer time, over 2 weeks. And then I jumped into the battle so that our generation, born in the 60s and 70s, could take charge of the Democratic Party. I became a member of DP in 1989. I was not a leader. I only became a leader in DP nationally in 2008. You calculate from 1989 up to 2008, I was just a member and a supporter. But now, people join today, tomorrow they want to be president of the party. That's why the other day when we threw out somebody who wanted to be president of the party, we said, you know, you must use the constitution. So we do believe very strongly that a person's track record matters. I've shared with you my track record because I see a lot of people who don't know me trying to talk about Norbert Mao, but you don't know me. People who are not even fit to untie my shoelaces are now commenting about me. So this race for speaker requires us to debate the real national challenges, how to unify our country. And that brings me to the conversations that we had in Changkwanzi. Changkwanzi was very good because it embarrassed those who thought that there was going to be any ring fencing from Changkwanzi. So those who had that idea, they beat the dust. They thought there would be a ring fence. True, I'm not a member of the National Resistance Movement, but I challenge the National Resistance Movement that out of your millions and millions of members, you can't find somebody better than somebody who has messed up Parliament. Are you so poor? It doesn't have to be me. But I also told them that now that we have this cooperation agreement, which under Article 7 allows us to introduce new areas of cooperation. And we are proposing that the speakership becomes a new area of cooperation. We are actually acting within the cooperation agreement. That is to be discussed. It requires agreement. If our partners don't agree, that's okay. But you cannot say, I'm not even going to discuss it. Instead, you find people saying, stay in the compound, don't enter the bedroom. The last time, the Prime Minister was in Chotera, and she said that NRM had married DP. Which marriage remains in the compound?
Go to the bedroom.
If you are married, marriage means full access. They were proudly saying, aba DP twabawasa sibe bagamba. Kati wembanga muli mbufumbo. Ebyobufumbo bigwera mu lujja oba bigenda ne mu kisenge. Ebyobufumbo bigenda buli wamu. Toyinza gamba nti tuli bafumbo naye tujja kusigala mu lujja. Obwo tebuba bufumbo. So, as it were, they are the ones who said they had married us. Then they are the ones who are now saying, don't come to the bedroom. I think that is a bit problematic. So Chankwanze worked because members of NRM put a lot of pressure on their party not to ring fence the position of speaker. And that's why the president has freed the members of parliament to vote for a speaker for the 12th parliament. The only thing that the members of NRM need is freedom to vote for a speaker who is qualified and suitable for the 12th parliament, which is going to be the parliament to deal with serious challenges, including transition. Including the issues of national dialogue, including national reconciliation. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, and my colleagues who are here with us, the purpose of this press conference is to, first of all, renew the hope of the country that we are still defending the cause. And our cause is fixing parliament. So we want to allay any rumor that I'm even thinking about withdrawing from the race. That's the first purpose of the press conference. Secondly, is to reassure the members of the DP that the contradictions among party leaders is not a big deal. Because I see some of you in the media, you are trying to distract us by inviting some of our leaders in DP to continue heckling this struggle. But I believe that it is important for me as president of the party to assure the members that those are just little storms in a teacup. The third purpose of this press conference is to share something about the legal battle that I'm also involved in. You know, one day I said that I'm like the knife for peeling matoke and potatoes. It is always full of sap. The Baganda say, akambe kawase, akatagwa komasanda. My journey is supposed to be uphill. Mine is never easy. And I've learned to live with that. I'll never have a downhill journey. So I want to say something briefly about the court case. In particular, how we are going to fight it. And number 4 is to give the context to the cause we are fighting. There's a lot of danger in thinking small. When you are thinking small, you can be easily discouraged. Ever since I became president of DP, I've always been encouraging the Democratic Party to think big. A political party has only one major purpose: to win the trust of the people in order to form the government. That is the purpose of the political party. And if you don't win the trust of the people to form the government, then it's your duty to influence what government does. If not, why then would you want to be a councillor? Why then would you want to be a member of parliament? You want to be a councillor, you want to be a member of parliament in order to influence what government does. And influencing what government does affects the lives of the people, because politics is about the people. Forget about those who complicate politics. Politics is not complicated. Where people don't have clean water, as a councillor or as a member of parliament, you influence the budget so that provision is made for the people you represent to have clean water, or to have other amenities, or to have better health services, access to education, and better livelihoods. That's the essence of politics. That's why we are in politics. It's not about heckling each other. So, politicians should be judged by the extent to which they are able to better the lives of their people. So those are the 4 reasons why I have come to speak to the media today. Number 1, to reassure the country that I'm moving full speed to the finishing line. No stopping, no reducing speed. Number 2, to reassure the members of the Democratic Party and the leaders not to be distracted by some of the contradictions in the party. Number 3, to talk about the legal case. And number 4, to give the context. That's why we are here. So I'll start with the context. Right now, it looks like decent people have no space in politics. People think that to be a politician, you must be a liar and you must be a thief. You must be somebody who wants to organize goons to beat up your opponents. You must steal public funds to bribe voters. and then you must be a liar. That's not true. While preparing for this press conference, I made some notes. Many of you have read the book called Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. Everybody knows that. The title of that book comes from a poem by an Irishman called W.B. Yeats. And I'll read for you the lines from which the title of that book was taken. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. My favorite passage is not the one of Things Fall Apart. It is the last one. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Why is it that those who are doing bad things appear to be more energized than those who are doing good things? How can we motivate good people to get involved in the affairs of their country? Everywhere, the people who are being celebrated are basically the thugs. You find even the voters glorifying the thugs. In their conversation, they say, don't play with that candidate, he can kill you, man. You know, that one is not a joke, he can even kill you. Then they say, that one has a lot of money, how can Mao even manage? Why are we glorifying the worst? Because we glorify them, that's what gives them energy. We should deny them the oxygen. And we should motivate the best. So my stepping forward has made me just to be a symbol. And that is why the majority of those who are in support of my candidature normally are not people who support me, by the way. They have been the people who have been criticizing me. But because I'm standing for something they believe in, that we should clean up that parliament, we should fix it. So I'm carrying their flag. So when I'm carrying a flag, you don't follow me, you follow the flag. Because even if I fall, somebody else must pick the flag and continue that fight. So that is the whole context of this struggle we are in. Now, how did we reach this stage? It is important for us to understand how we got ourselves into this situation. Basically, we need to ask ourselves, what should be the precondition to establish a functional African state? A state which is based on the rule of law, based on a constitution which is respected, which is based on respect for human rights, and which is based on serving the ordinary people. What do we need to do? So as I deal with the issue of the context in which we are operating, I want to say, in our journey since independence, we are still trying to deal with what we call the national question. So what is the national question? The national question is the challenge of gluing together into one nation a diverse people. The British drew a border around us. They brought Bakonzo, the Sebei, Bagisu, Banyankole, Baganda, Lukbaras, Iteso. They brought all of us together. So when we talk about the national question is, what glue do you need to bring these diverse people together? That is what we call the national question. And every country must deal with its national question. Some countries even go to war. Sudan could not resolve the national question. They had to separate. Ethiopia battled with it until Eritrea left. Somalia is now dealing with the problem of Somaliland. You recently heard that Somaliland declared independence, and some countries have decided to recognize them. In Nigeria, the Igbo people decided that they want independence. You remember Ojukwu. They created a state called Biafra. They decided to fight it out. In America, the North and the South fought against each other, killing each other massively. Soviet Union battled the national question. It split apart. Ukraine decided to go away. Georgia went away. So many, because it used to be called the USSR. It was the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. It became unsustainable because they could not resolve what we call the national question, which is basically how to be together. Tanzania is still grappling with the Tanganyika-Zanzibar question. Here in Uganda, some of us at one point had even toyed with the idea of a Nile Republic. You have the Balkans, Yugoslavia, split apart. So, whatever we do in politics, let's not lose sight of what we call the national question. In other words, there must be something which is larger than our individual interests. Because we have different cultures, we have different languages, but here we are. We must find a formula to stay together. And I doubt whether the political parties in Uganda actually debate the national question. Most of them concentrate on how to defeat their opponents. So resolving the national question is a precondition for establishing a true African state in Uganda. So as I discuss the context of our struggle, the number one question is the national question, which is very simple. Here we have grappled with it. In 1966, the Buganda Lukiko passed a resolution and said Dr. Bote should remove his government from the soil of Buganda. Why did that happen? Because we had not resolved the national question. They didn't have a sense of belonging. We have had situations where, after 1986, those of us who come from the north were being referred to as anyanyas, basically as if we are from outer space. That is still a symptom of a failure to resolve the national question. So if we are looking for leaders, we must look for serious leaders who are not just treating symptoms. We must treat the cause of our problems. The second thing, which remains a challenge which a serious leader should address, is the long shadow of colonialism. I'm speaking a language which is not mine. I'm speaking English. I'm not even dressed the way the typical Acholi used to dress before the white man arrived. I now approach my food with a fork and a knife, which is not how my ancestors approached their food. And so on and so on. But above all, the biggest part of colonialism which we have to deal with is that we were handed formal independence, declared you are now free. You have a national anthem which you sing every time. You have a flag which you salute. You have a parliament which is even designed to look like the British Parliament. Is that really how Africans used to sit when they are debating important issues? That you have one side this way and one side that way? Is that really how you sit when you have a clan meeting? But somehow we adopted that. Then we say one side is opposition, and we even have a leader of opposition. Then we have one side which is supposed to be government. I don't remember us sitting like that in the village. When we were in the village, we used to sit in a circle, because our role was to attack the problem, not to attack each other. So apart from resolving the national question, which is finding the proper glue to weld us together, we have the challenge of decolonization. We find that we basically cannot do anything as if we own our country. Even when you try to do a pipeline to take your oil, still you find some people coming to lecture you about what you are deciding to do. So, our plural societies were patched together, and those who patched us together still want to dictate how we run our affairs. I thought I should share those two important contextual issues. Everything else can fit into those two main challenges. We are here, we think we have internet, but all our data is stored by companies that are foreign owned actually. You get a remote control, but you don't own the satellites that are beaming these images that you enjoy. Soon we are even going to lose control over seeds. Our grandparents would keep the best stock of a harvest in order to plant again in the next season. Now we are being told that seeds will be made in a laboratory. And when you harvest what you have planted, for instance, maize, you can't plant it again. It is barren. It is infertile. So when you are talking about leadership, you must first of all elect leaders who understand the problem. Because if you don't understand the problem, how can you even pretend that you want to solve it? And there are people who think there's no problem in the parliament the way it is. But there is hope, because Ugandans have woken up. For the first time, the hawkers, the women selling fruits and vegetables on the streets of Kampala, the border riders are now discussing the question of who is fit to be the Speaker of Parliament. They even want to vote. The good thing is that they will have an opportunity to punish the members of Parliament who will not vote correctly when we are electing the Speaker. So any member of Parliament who ignores the voices of the people right now will be punished in 2031. And that punishment will be sure. And we will be there to remind the voters that these are the people who betrayed you. We are at a very delicate time in Uganda, and we need a serious speaker. We don't need a speaker who just wants to make money. We want a speaker who wants to make a difference. I repeat, we don't want a speaker who just wants to make money. We want a speaker who wants to make a difference. I'm sitting around saying Mao joined the cabinet in order to improve his financial situation, that he was about to die of poverty. I grew up in poverty, it didn't kill me. If poverty did not kill me when I was in the village, will it kill me when now I have Bachelor of Laws, Master of Arts, and a Master of Dispute Resolution, Diploma, Postgraduate in Legal Practice, Advocate for over 30 years? Will poverty kill me with all those qualifications?
Of course not.
Yes, even that one. So, I think we should not reduce the debate about important questions to simple things. I was offered the job of minister in June 2021. Can a hungry person wait for 1 year? Because it seems anybody who is attacking me stupidly, I'm going to get their full record and hang it on Kololo Hill. I will hang their records on Summit View indeed, so that everybody can know who they really are. I have my record. Starting from being a head prefect. In fact, starting from being an S2 student who by mistake in Wairaka College went to attend a senior debating society general meeting. I didn't know it was for A-levels. I put forward my candidature because I had made a persuasive speech. I was elected vice chairman. When they asked me, are you S5 Arts or Sciences? Then I said I'm in S2, and I was promptly dismissed. That is the shortest time I ever held an office. To the time when I was elected head prefect in Namilyango College. If we have anybody from Namilyango College, go to Namilyango and ask about Norbert Mao. One of the biggest problems we had in Namilyango College was indiscipline. Ask them what I did to ensure discipline. For instance, we had the A-level hostel. The senior 6 students used to sleep upstairs and the S5s were downstairs. I don't know what madness would possess the senior 6 students during exams. They would run around upstairs stampeding. Some would get a spoon or a knife and move with it along the railings, making a lot of noise for those downstairs. Others would even get something as heavy as a shot put and start rolling it upstairs. You feel as if a train is moving above you. When I was elected head prefect, I decided that that must stop. So I called a general meeting of the A-level students and told them that with effect from the next term, now that I was head prefect, the S5s would be upstairs and S6 would be downstairs. And that was that. They didn't like it. That night they broke my window and poured water from the toilet on my blanket. And then I was convinced I'd done the right thing. Sometimes when you are attacked, that means you are doing the right thing. I became the first head prefect to call a general assembly for the whole school. When we sounded the bell and called for a general assembly, the students thought the headmaster was the one going to address them. And then I stood before the whole school. And I told them, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for electing me. I've simply come to tell you that I'm not your mother and I'm not your father. I'm a student like you. And I also need to pass and go to university. I'm not going to run after you, and I'm not going to report you to the school administration. I'm going to deal with you personally. If it requires me to cane you, I will cane you instantly. And I did on many occasions. If it requires me to let you flatten an anthill there and then, you will do it. I remember I was heckled by one senior 6 student. There was an anthill near the assembly hall, and I promptly ordered that he should be taken to flatten it. So while the meeting continued, he was very busy bringing down the anthill. I reminded them that each of them had signed to obey the school regulations. So I asked anyone who had changed his mind and was no longer interested in following the school regulation to go and pack up and leave the school. I asked them whether they had been forced to sign. They said no one had forced them. That is my record. At Makerere University, against all odds, I was elected president of the Students' Guild. Up to now, those of you who are university graduates and were sponsored by the government should thank me because because of the struggle I led. That's why there's still government sponsorship in public universities. And we lost 2 lives. Others were injured, including the late Speaker Jacob Oulanyah. We took a stand. But we were not extremists. We went on strike, but when the time for peace came, we also reached out. One day I picked the phone and called State House. Somebody picked the phone asked me my name, I introduced myself. That person, you can ask her, she's still alive. The former UNRWA Executive Director, Allen Kajina. At that time, she was called Allen Kakuyu. She was the presidential assistant. I requested for a meeting with the president, which the president gave us. And I took a delegation of university students in December 1990. And we met the president for 4 hours. And we persuaded him to change government policy. I can fight, but I can also make peace. So this is not the first time I've reached out. I was 23 years old. Now there are those criticizing me for what I did when I was 55 years old. After university, I applied for a job to be a state attorney in the Ministry of Justice. I was denied the job because the interview panel thought my record was not so good, that probably by leading strikes I would not make a good public servant. You know the attitude of those who interview people for government jobs. But God can really crack jokes. Now I'm leading the ministry, which could not allow me to join it at the lowest professional level. Isn't that so ironical?
It is.
I could not qualify to be a mere state attorney. Then I come as the political head of the ministry. I hope that gives some sense of hope to those of you who are despairing. I didn't lose my temper because I knew that everything has its time. But that time only comes for those who are ready. Right now, I'm ready to be the Speaker of Parliament. I pity those who were not ready when they took that office. Now they are doing what is called okwekasa. Because if you are not ready for something, you have to keep justifying every mistake. And you can even see by the kind of decisions made from the chair. I don't have to go into details because I will appear to be too critical. That seat does not just need a lawyer, it needs somebody who is an advocate. A lawyer is somebody who has studied law. An advocate is somebody who knows how to apply the law. That's the difference. I also understand the Bible, I understand scripture, but I'm not a priest. Because I don't have that ordination. An advocate is someone who is ordained to practice the law. In other words, you know how to apply it. And that is what the office of Speaker now needs. Not just somebody who knows the law. Because I hear people say, oh, they are lawyers, they are lawyers. Yes, they are lawyers. They know the law. But they don't know how to apply it. And that's why we have all these blunders. So that is a major problem we have to deal with. So that is about context. And my record to prove that I know how to tackle real problems. I went to serve in Gulu at a time when nobody wanted to serve in Gulu. The Uganda Law Society opened a legal aid project. Nobody wanted to go to Gulu because there was a war. By about 5 p.m. people are running looking for where to hide. But that's where Norbert Mao was heading. I went and opened the first ever Uganda Law Society Legal Aid Project Office for Northern Uganda. I was the advocate, I was the sweeper, I was the messenger, I was the secretary. I established that office. It is still there up to today. I was a lawyer for the poor, the widows and orphans. I laid that foundation. And it is on that basis that I believe I won the trust of the people and got elected as a member of parliament. I was just about to turn 29. That contest pitted me against a member of the cabinet, a minister. I served for 10 years and left. Then I went to be the chairman of the district. I found a district headquarters which was unfinished for years. In a short time, I finished it. We even got wireless in.
Fellow Ugandans, the Uganda Communications Commission would like to address you regarding the responsible use of communication platforms in light of the recent developments. We are aware of the Constitutional Court decision that annulled certain provisions of the Computer Misuse Amendment Act 2022. Following this ruling, there have been reports of increased misuse of social media and other digital platforms. Some users appear to have been misled into believing that there is currently no other law governing the use of computer systems in Uganda. We wish, therefore, to clarify that this is not the case. While the court annulled specific sections of the law, such as those relating to unauthorized access, hate speech, unsolicited and malicious information, and misuse of social media, many other provisions of the Computer Misuse Act remain fully in force. As a matter of emphasis, we would like to emphasize that the annulment of those said sections of the Computer Misuse Amendment Act 2022 obviously does not sanction or condone such behavior or misuse of computer platforms. Hate speech, unsolicited and malicious information, misuse of social media is still morally, ethically, and legally unacceptable behavior that can be prosecuted under other existing laws on cyber harassment, cyber stalking, electronic fraud, and other such related laws. Similarly, although certain provisions on libel under the Penal Code were annulled, the rest of the Penal Code Act remains applicable. In addition, other laws, including the Uganda Communications Act, the Data Protection and Privacy Act, and the Children's Act, continue to regulate the use of communication platforms and protect the rights of individuals. We therefore urge all users to exercise responsibility in their use of digital platforms. Let us use technology to advance our socio-economic well-being and not to harm others, violate their rights, or undermine peace and security of our country. We also encourage the public to report any misuse of communication platforms to the Uganda Communications Commission or the Uganda Police Force. Let us all play our part in ensuring a safe, respectful, and secure digital environment for everybody. I thank you.